Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to join you at this innovative virtual East&West Expo. My name's Mark Smith. I'm the trading director at BetConstruct, and with over 25 years' experience within the industry, I will talk to you about the challenges that all sportsbooks, not just BetConstruct, faced in 2020, talk about how they coped and continue to cope in this most challenging of years, and we'll talk about sportsbook plans 2021 and beyond. Firstly, I'll briefly mention all the different topics that I will cover today. To start, I will give an overview of the BetConstruct Sportsbook and share how the challenges that were faced will be replicated within the industry. Then I will discuss how substantial the COVID effects were, the challenges and responses to it, and how it still affects the entire betting industry. The fact that so many businesses are spread around the globe means there are fresh challenges in business that Zoom calls alone cannot always solve. With this in mind, I will talk about the BetConstruct modern central hub in Yerevan and how both from a general business and from a specific sportsbook perspective, that this will maybe make businesses think and maybe move away from their regional global offices across different time zones to concentrate more on their. Within all sportsbook, COVID was an opportunity too. It provided and continues to provide opportunities for expansion, innovation, and also consolidation. I'll give examples of each. Finally, I will talk about how the industry will and should react in 2021. So before going on to the effects of sportsbooks in 2020, first it's important to give a summary of the BetConstruct Sportsbook as a reminder for those amongst us who use it and also for those of you not familiar with it. It is likely to be a similar blueprint with other providers too, and should give you an example of the inner workings of a modern, competitive sportsbook. BetConstruct is an award-winning sportsbook in a number of different regions. The latest recognition was in November at Malta's Gaming Excellence Awards, where it received recognition as the best technology provider, best online sports betting supplier, and best gaming and online betting platform. With this in mind, this demonstrates that using this specific sportsbook as an example is appropriate to talk about the industry. Many different departments help to make up a sportsbook and to make it such a success for sportsbook partners, and is provided all over the world to hundreds of partners in all regions. This provides an excellent overview of the challenges that any bookmaker can face. One needs to understand the needs of a sportsbook launching in those different regions, the challenges that they may face, sports that are of highest importance, most popular markets that customers are likely to want, and which betting margins will be needed to be competitive in that specific region. There are different regulations in all these different regions too. So having an experienced provider knowing the legal landscape can be a benefit for any sportsbook. For example, one feature that many providers have is the functionality to try and find a way to take bets greater than the desired risk appetite of a sportsbook, still meeting the wishes of a large staking VIP player. This can be a win-win where the sportsbook and the player are both happy. At BetConstruct, this feature is called BetCloud. So by knowing that this feature can be offered legally in Africa, Asia and Turkey, amongst others, but not in some more regulated regions such as the UK or France, it means that a provider can help a sportsbook from a legal or regulation perspective. There's many markets offered. BetConstruct offer tens of thousands of betting events per month, both pre-match and live around the clock. Obviously, all core sports such as football, basketball, tennis, etc. are offered in the global betting market. Also, many others, like all other providers, provide too. However, providers are able to give to sportsbooks the option to offer some exclusive content that has been developed in-house too. We'll go into some of these later. It's also important to understand that a key sport in one region may be a minor sport in another region. Many sports are, by definition, regionalised across the globe, such as cricket, popular in Asia, UK and Australasia, rugby, popular in New Zealand, South Africa and France, horse racing in the UK, wrestling and MMA, popular in CIS regions, each having hugely different interest levels based upon geography. Having the flexibility to tailor a sportsbook to fit the requirements of individual partners is crucial, as well as adjusting limits as high or as low as required and adjusting betting margins to reflect interest in key or minor sports on a regional basis. Although football, or soccer, is traditionally the biggest sport globally for most partners, customizing the offering on a granular basis to ensure that the most effective leagues are the highest priority on your sportsbook is imperative. Removing, hiding, or unsubscribing to regions not of interest has to be an option too. As a provider to the world, I know BetConstruct offers as much betting content as possible, and then, in collaboration with our partners, for what's suitable for them and their market. It's important to have extensive live coverage, obviously. A centralized live trading team works 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, to ensure that any provider has suitable live content available at all times. Using in-house mathematical models, analysing real-time live bets and monitoring the global underlying market in real time means coverage and quality can stay high. Additional benefits of a flexible trading team is that any last-minute fixture changes or additional events can be covered very short notice, keeping all partners and therefore customers happy. Having a worldwide partner base is another key for a provider. As touched upon earlier, from a trading perspective, partners from all different regions of the world mean there's a requirement to have an understanding of all their. This isn't unique just to trading. This understanding of the global markets and the need of partners applies to all my colleagues here at BetConstruct too. These will range from account managers who work closely with partners, project management team who have experience of meeting global needs for product enhancements, and then all internal systems need to be able to understand different regional styles of play, so for CRM, marketing and management needs. Customer support teams. These need to be trained in all regions for industry-leading compliance and responsible gambling accreditation modern times. The key point is that a worldwide partner base means that a provider like BetConstruct is able to cope with any sportsbook and the exciting challenges it will bring from any part of the world. However, ultimately, profits are needed for any sportsbook, and an ability, in collaboration with the betting partners, to make consistent profits in all regions demonstrates an ability as an entire group to provide a successful sportsbook. Each sportsbook and region can provide a different challenge. Some sportsbooks have predominantly live sports betting business, while others see more business on free match bets. Some will see only almost exclusively single betting, which have lower margins, and others have higher margin multiple-based business. Differences between these styles, and managing all the relevant parts of a sportsbook needed for this, are all part of the exciting challenge that I know we and the rest of the industry face daily. We look forward to welcoming 2021 more partners as the betting industry continues to grow. Now we know what a modern sportsbook should look like, we can now look into how it was affected by COVID in 2020. Firstly, there was a huge drop in turnover. Simply put, the betting industry needs sports to survive. During the worst of the COVID pandemic, there were virtually no, what you would consider to be traditional and familiar sports and leagues to bet on. As a result, the whole industry saw a significant drop in turnover. Different estimates suggest that maybe turnover is a quarter of normal. I'd say that's roughly in line with what we saw here at BetConstruct. From a football perspective, again, the main sport, we all remember Belarus Premier League being one of the only mainstream leagues offered. Sports that rely on travel of players, mainly international, so tennis, cricket, golf, had zero events, therefore zero turnover for. Only when some of these sports showed some innovation, events for betting returned. These included having newer, shorter versions of the sports, more regional competitions, maybe lower quality than normal. And travel was being removed for participants, maybe creating a bubble where participants were regularly tested and shielded from others, to reduce the risk of infection and to keep everyone safe. However, the cost of this in some places made this impossible. It was often down to TV companies or sports channels with no live content, sports leagues themselves with no real time relevance having to act. Some forward-thinking sports saw this as an opportunity to reinvent themselves. This was a period of crisis management for these, and obviously it led to crisis management for the industry as well. And everyone went into full crisis management mode, probably end of March, early April. COVID should have taught everyone to think flexibly and react quickly to any issue and use whatever resources and options that you have. This is how we were able to use the benefits of our central hub to expand some of our existing exclusive content, such as live table tennis and snooker, and also to think creatively for the whole sportsbook. And I've already seen this type of positive mental flexibility with a couple of high priority sportsbook issues recently, which is, I think, is encouraging for the future and everyone's productivity. From a sportsbook perspective, this crisis management produced an expansion of some sports that offered, created new content, which we'll talk about later. So this became a period of combination of expansion, consolidation, and innovation. As well as expansion and innovation, as everyone was dealing with short-term issues and content emergencies, it's also a chance to take the time to clear some backlog, whether that be tasks, to-do lists, model updates. Again, we'll get onto that. New industry partnerships became a big thing as well in betting. As the entire industry was at a loss for content, it became a period of unity between different providers who were still regularly in competition too. Positive business competition can be a good thing for the entire industry, and this was a period where this was 100% true. The likes of BetConstruct, Sportradar, BetGenius, Canby, Digitane, Metric Gaming, Sporting Solutions, and others all reacted with their own improvements. BetConstruct's exclusive ownership of in-house products such as table tennis, snooker, basketball shots, and air hockey drew attention from other providers or from Tier 1 global recognised sportsbooks who recognised that such content was needed for them too. This led to some new agreements, forging some new relationships between providers, which I feel is a good thing for raising the entire industry sportsbook standards. So making your sportsbook COVID-proof for 2021 and beyond is essential. For a sportsbook owner, what 2020 has taught you is you need options. If some sports were to disappear from coverage again for whatever reason, you need content. If there are no regulations in your region preventing you, and these can be different globally, now as a sportsbook you should have cyber sports, virtual sports, and also sports that you think are obscure or unpopular at your disposal. Have them with low limits as a training precaution if needed. Have them available even if not prominent on your website. If COVID or similar decimates the sporting calendar again, you can be agile to keep your content going. This has been seen with some BetConstruct sportsbooks who maybe were suspicious of some sports, didn't originally offer them, but had no choice when COVID struck. Good turnover, with steady profits and no integrity issues, meant that some sportsbooks were forced to evolve their thinking, almost recognise their mistakes in not offering it earlier. And now they've become a key part of their business. Trends that were already coming have been exaggerated by this crisis and will continue. Full 24/7 schedule of events and a corresponding demand for streams will continue to grow. Where possible, having these enhance your sport in 2021. I'm going to talk a little now about BetConstruct Central Hub. I spoke earlier about how betting companies went into full crisis management mode. It's important to think here about how most big companies run, not just betting companies. Many companies may have their headquarters with an impressive sounding address in New York or San Francisco, Paris, London, wherever. They will then have a few regional offices with probably more staff than at their headquarters, offices away from the high-profile capital. They will then have offices globally where what I consider the real workers are, making the products themselves, support staff, customer service, etc. This is obviously all done mainly from a costing perspective. Heads of each office or department will fly around the globe, meeting monthly, planning their strategies. The pandemic has stopped a lot of these things and made many staff feel cut off from maybe headquarters. Decision making is done across different time zones, all remote on Zoom calls. The world has adjusted to the new normal. However, the advantage that BetConstruct has had and will continue to have is that by being so centralised in one core hub, in a time of crisis, whether that's a long-term crisis like a pandemic or flashpoints and immediate issues in live trading, casino, AGP, customer support, can rally together in person in the same time zone to resolve it as soon as possible. So some of you will not have visited BetConstruct's offices in Yerevan yet. It exists in a way which I consider to be like a university campus. Amongst other things, our top building contains all our live trading, our pre-match and risk management departments, international customer support teams, content creation, calculation teams, esports, our dedicated trading team who provide bespoke trading when it's needed. Apologies if I've missed someone. The main central building contains all our business management, account managers, sales, project managers, IT departments there, developers, human resources, and all our live in-house cyber sports, table tennis and snooker are based there too. This is as well as the canteen, gym and conference. We also have a separate casino building, and the newest building contains fee construct and scouting teams, and there's also a separate building for our B2B bet team. This has so many advantages internally, which then has a positive effect onto all our products. As I said, live and pre-match are in the same building. From a trading perspective, where my supposed expertise is, this is the area I know best and I see the clearest benefits from. I know that some betting providers operate with multiple live trading departments in different contents and time zones which overlap. However, I've seen firsthand previously sometimes that problems can occur. There may have been a query from a partner, maybe want to look back at maybe an overnight issue. That office could be closed now, or the supervisor or manager has finished his shift. With time zone differences, by the time Office A messages Office B, and then Office B replies, and then Supervisor A and Supervisor B can arrange a call to discuss, it's sometimes days before there's an issue that's been resolved. Bet Construct operation and setup removes many of these issues, refreshing to move between floors, between teams, find solutions or improvements for issues, maybe suggest some workflows in hours, sometimes minutes, that all have a benefit to the sportsbook performance and ultimately better experience for partners. As I mentioned, I speak mainly from a trading perspective, but I regularly see the close relationships between other teams too. Some providers have their developers in this country, account managers in that country, etc. I really do feel it's a huge advantage for Bet Construct, which should be. This is something I know I emphasise to existing and new partners when discussing trading, being something that is work to their advantage. Finally, on this topic, I know that we love to meet our partners and industry colleagues as much as possible face to face. Although everyone's now used to Zoom, Google, Skype, calls, etc., I do hope that I and everyone else get to meet as many of you in person much more in 2021 than we did in 2020. I mentioned earlier I'm going to talk about expansion, innovation and consolidation, and now's the time to use some of these examples. Table tennis, snooker, cyber sports, these are all examples of content that were offered and then were expanded. Additional building spaces created and schedules were adjusted to get more matches and events available for the entire industry, so there was more betting content. Obviously, this sort of effort was made by other providers too, with their key content. It's not an understatement to say that some of the above sports and similar types provided by Bet Construct and some of those other providers probably saved some sportsbooks globally in April and May. Bet Construct also expanded into new global partnerships, as mentioned earlier, and significantly expanded the customer support side of the business too in 2020. This was a chance for expansion. There was lots of innovation that took place in the entire industry. Here at Bet Construct, basketball shots, cyber football, air hockey, and recently archery shooting are all new contents and content events that were not offered pre-COVID. These are examples of the innovation of Bet Construct, and partners can take these events now. This type of content, though, might not suit all sportsbooks as a priority, but can be useful to have as a resource in case of further sports cancellations in the future. This type of innovation also happened elsewhere in the industry too. Providers such as Sport Radar had their virtual football, and Russian table tennis was key content for all. These innovative products also form part of the ever-growing mega feed offered by Fee Construct, which has been a key area for growth in 2020. As well as expansion and innovation, I think that the smartest businesses, so in our case now the smartest providers and sportsbooks, should have used that quiet COVID period, from a live sports perspective that is, to use some resources to consolidate too. At the moment, I believe that many people who maybe claim to have wanted to learn a new language or a musical instrument, if they didn't try it in the various global lockdowns at home, or unfortunately for some when they had no work, I think they're never going to get round to it. The same really for a sportsbook. We've all had our to-do lists, and if we hadn't got round to them recently, maybe we won't. For a sportsbook, this could include updating or adjusting some mathematical models that are used for the live trading of sports, reviewing trading efficiency in different areas of the business, individual sports departments, so maybe different sports looking at their own processes and their teams, maybe developing the skill sets of live traders by increasing the sports they're capable of trading. Also a time to review the different competitions and market limits within internal systems. Most sportsbooks obviously offer larger bets on football than they would on skiing or basketball, higher limits than NASCAR. They'll take larger bets or exposure on the English Premier League or La Liga than they would on reserve team football or lower leagues. However, are all these the optimal levels? Are there sports or leagues where your sportsbook can increase their risk due to good prior performance? Are there markets which need reviewing, up or down from a risk perspective, to make sure they're as efficient as possible for your sportsbook? Personally, for me, as some of you know, this COVID period was an opportunity to look back as well as forward. Due to travel restrictions, I was stranded away from head office for 6 months, and I, alongside some of my colleagues, did many of the things I've just listed to help improve Sportsbookers, while those of you on the ground dealt excellently with the immediate crisis management issue. So, how to prepare for 2021 and beyond? 2021 will be no different to any other with our intentions and for other sportsbook providers into the new year. We all strive to improve our sportsbook offering, continuous innovations and enhancements, listening to the needs and requests of our partners and putting our own ideas into practice too. Our excellent head of Sportsbook, who will be around the Sportsbook stand too at this Expo, is constantly making subtle adjustments to improve player experience, which helps all partners and therefore all players. But you have to be ready to react to a potential further COVID spike or any other black swan event. In December 2019, so a year ago, none of us could have predicted what 2020 had in store. Regarding 2021, though we all hope for COVID to be brought under control, there's still a fear of a further mutation or different spikes causing issues for the sporting world, which is a severe effect to any sportsbook business. What this should have told everyone from a business perspective is that unknowns are just that. They are unknown. And there could be any further black swan type occurrence in the future, whether in 2021 or 2027. Again, it could have devastating effects. Some of you might remember the Iceland ash cloud in 2011, which stopped international flights for a week. It seemed it could have been much worse. This was almost a huge crisis for the industry too. As explained, the industry as a collective responded excellently to this COVID 2020 crisis and should be ready for what challenges and issues may arise in 2021 and beyond. Now, although most sports are thought to be back now, it's important to remember that sports are not quite the same. Lack of crowds has changed the experience for fans, TV watchers, and for the betting industry. Models that produce the prices for the betting public have had to have adjustments made. How did COVID affect sports and all the previous historical data being used by the betting industry and betting public? The home advantage that teams experience is well known in some sports. In American football, it's 2 to 3 points. From a game of football, it's normally 0.3 or 0.4 of a goal. So how did this change with no crowds? Was this advantage now 0 or just slightly reduced? At one point, some of you may remember, no home teams won in the Bundesliga on resumption for 2 weeks. Was this a new trend due to COVID or just noise? Does no fans increase the number of goals expected and reduce the number of yellow cards in a game? Now, small amounts of fans are returning. Does that change things again? For some, I know myself, these questions are a nice intellectual challenge. For others, they could be a deterrent from betting. These issues, coupled with anything else that affects a bettor's confidence when placing a bet, can all lead to reductions in turnover. Just all in the last 10 days, the following's happened. We've had an English Premier League game cancelled, an NFL game scheduled for Thanksgiving, is the second most important date of the season, was delayed 3 times and played 6 days late. Another NFL match featured a team with no quarterback, by far the key position because they all had COVID, and so had almost no chance of winning. The game was still played. Last weekend, the world champion Lewis Hamilton withdrew from a Formula One Grand Prix due to COVID, throwing betting markets into disarray. And also a cricket international between England and South Africa was cancelled now before the start. These are all in the last 10 days and all due to COVID. We have to remind ourselves this isn't the old normal. So again, even though sports are back, full confidence in sports from a betting perspective are not yet 100%. COVID can be kept fully under control, A player can bet with confidence again. Could back Barcelona 4 days before the game, not worrying if Messi tests positive for COVID. Future or anti-post sports betting will be more attractive again, without concerns about teams being affected, seasons reduced. And having sports back in full, with fans attending and full confidence levels for the betting public, will hopefully coincide with the Euros football tournament in June. If that happens, and all the main US sports then slide back into their normal place, full regular season, that will be a sign that the sporting calendar will be back to optimal for betting. Sports being back to full normality is the key for full growth into 2021, and I predict a spike above current levels of industry betting turnover if this happens. We think sports are back, but from a betting perspective, they're not fully back. It's important to keep communicating with the gaming world in 2021. The industry will continue to work online with remote conferences featuring panels, workshops and discussions. Excellent work from the likes of SBC, and regional betting on sports conferences, and innovative formats such as this all mean that the industry can still communicate and progress collectively on a global level. These will continue to happen and grow into 2021 and beyond, if needed due to travel restrictions or safety concerns. Hopefully, in-person events will take place in 2021. The final point to make really is that I and all my colleagues here at BetConstruct look forward to meeting in person with many of you as soon as possible, whether that's meeting old friends and partners or creating new partnerships. Thanks for listening to what I've said, and if anyone has any questions, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, don't seem to be any specific questions. I'll be around on the virtual sportsbook stand, so if anyone does have any questions or wants to seek me out, feel free. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of the conference and catch you soon.